purpose of this is just to bring out all of the fantastic stories of our implementer community. We have over 850 EOS implementers in doing business in 40 countries. And you are in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I want to dive in and one, thank you for being on. And two, what is your entrepreneurial story? How did you get here? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Mark. I'm excited to do this. I've been looking forward to it. So entrepreneurial story, if I went back, I would say I was a childhood entrepreneur. I was kind of a hustler when I was a kid. I was always looking for ways. We were really poor. And so I was always trying to find ways to make money. Me and my brother were just always hustling, and so I would always be looking for ways in the neighborhood. My first real entrepreneurial venture was in Michigan. We have a 10-cent bottle and can return, and so I recruited some of the kids in the neighborhood, my little brother included, and I recruited them to help collect cans and return them, and then, kind of make some money off of them that way. But then I found out about, I can't remember where I found this out, but I don't know if you ever saw the movie Goodfellas, where they had the...
Not for a while.
The big heist that they have, it was the biggest one in history at the airport. Well, we figured out what ours was. There was like a beer distributor that was nearby, and it was a little nefarious in our dealings here. And so we found out that they had a bunch of beer cans in there. And so we just found a way to get our hands on those, and then I hired a bunch of the kids in the neighborhood to help return them, because there were these huge bags of cans and bottles and stuff. And so that was the business until it all fell apart, and then they, started trying to pilfer them and return them on their own, and it just kind of fell apart. So that was my first real business, was just getting everybody together and sending them off to all these different stores to return the cans, because I didn't want to walk in there with a giant bag of cans to return. These are these huge bags, and so I just figured out, like, hey, if I can get all these kids together, they can start returning them. They can keep some of it, bring the rest to me, and so that was kind of my first thing. I had paper routes and mowing lawns and all that kind of stuff as well, but.
It sounds like you were missing an enforcement mechanism for your aluminum can cartel.
Yeah, that would have been good to have an enforcer to make it.
Strike some fear into those kids.
Yeah, that would have been good. Good idea.
Yeah.
Your visionary brain would have been helpful to but then I got into the restaurant business when I was a kid, and I just discovered I was really good at it. My first job was at Burger King, and so I just was in there. I could flip Whoppers faster than anybody, and work the drive-thru. And then I got really good at different parts of the restaurant industry, and that was kind of like, once I started doing that, and was able to make money doing it. That really became my passion. And so I like to say, I've held every role in the hospitality industry, from the dishwasher to the CEO of a company. And so everything else in between, I've done every job you could do in a restaurant. I really started out in the back of the house, in the kitchen, and working my way up as a cook. So I started as a dishwasher, cook, and then became a sous chef. And then I was a chef for several years in the restaurant business, and that was great. I loved that. Somebody gave me a shot in becoming a manager, a sous chef, and it was my mentor, Chef Dave, and made me a sous chef, and that was kind of like my introduction into leadership. Mm-hmm. And worked my way up, and was in the back of the house as a chef for a long time, and then worked my way into the front of the house, general manager, director of operations, and then ultimately I became CEO of a restaurant company here in Grand Rapids, and that's where my more of my entrepreneurial journey started. And so I helped grow that organization, from kind of a smaller family restaurant into, we had multiple locations, multiple different concepts. I co-founded one that turned out to be really do pretty good, and then one that failed miserably, and we learned a lot from that part of the journey. And that's kind of where our where I got introduced to EOS, and so I read Traction, and I went to an EOS talk done by one of our fellow EOS implementers, Ken Bogard. Mm-hmm. And man, that just did it for me. After reading the book and then just thinking to myself, wow, this is everything that I had been trying to figure out, how to run this business, how to run this and build this organization. Gino had figured it out and put it into this simple, beautiful system that we all know and love now. And I was just like, man, he figured it out. Like, this is it. So I went to a couple of EOS talks that Ken did, and I went to the first one by myself, and then I brought my leadership team with me to the second one, and I just was like, we're doing this. And so it was great. And then as I was going through the journey, I had the last couple of years, I really I felt hit my ceiling as a leader and as in that company. I felt like I had accomplished everything that I was going to, and I had been looking at buying a restaurant, opening multiple franchises, all kinds of different stuff. And so I always thought my entrepreneurial journey was going to take me into restaurant ownership and doing something that way. And I'm glad I didn't, because this was right before COVID, and that would have been a very different and interesting journey that I'd be talking about right now. But kind of in the back of my mind, I always had this idea about wanting to start my own consulting business. I really love that part of my role in leadership positions, was the teaching, the coaching. I loved working with my managers and the leaders in the company and helping them become their best and really just bringing out the best in them. And that part of what I did, I really loved. And so I had this thought about, I really want to start this consulting business, and I thought it was going to be restaurant consulting. I was like, I got all this knowledge and all this ability that I can help other restaurant owners. And I thought that was going to be it. But then once we started running on EOS and I saw what Ken was doing, and I really just thought to myself, man, that job looks really good. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I talked to Ken about it, and he really helped me along. And, I read a couple books along the way too. I read Entrepreneurial Leap by Gino, and really helped me understand that I had the entrepreneurial traits. And when I read Rocket Fuel and I took the crystallizer assessment, that was really transformational for me as well. And I had came out like a 93 on the visionary side and like a 60 on the integrator side, and then I was like, man, these roles that I've been performing and living in my journey so far were a little bit more integrator type roles. Yeah. I wasn't always happy doing that kind of stuff, and when I was thinking about and looking back, I was like, this visionary type of stuff, building the organization, growing the company, opening new concepts, new locations, that kind of stuff. That really was the stuff that energized me and I was passionate about. And so that really, Rocket Fuel really helped me as well, kind of give me that insight on, deciding, the vision that the owners have and the vision that I have for this organization aren't really aligned. They don't really match up. And so that's kind of where I made that decision to take the entrepreneurial leap and start my own practice, become an EOS implementer, and started a journey about 3 years ago. So I went to boot camp about August of 2021, so a little over 3 years ago, a couple weeks ago, And
yeah, congratulations on the 3-year anniversary. Yeah.
yeah.
That's a great story, and I have a couple questions about. You mentioned that you had these kind of startup restaurants, and one of them had failed, and that's kind of where the lessons were. So digging into that just a little bit, what do you think the reasons that venture failed, and then what were the lessons that you got out of that?
Yeah, so really, as I think about it now as an EOS implementer, looking back on it, and had we had EOS in place, I mean, one of the things is the core focus. What we tried to do, the restaurant concept we tried to create, was not within the core focus that we ultimately created. It was more of the family type of restaurants, and we tried to create this concept that was higher end, more upscale, something you find like in downtown Chicago. We're trying to bring that to downtown Grand Rapids.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Rapids wasn't really ready for it, and it just wasn't in our sweet spot as a company. What we really did really well and was our best and our unique ability, and it would have, I believe, prevented us from going down that path towards trying to create this concept and really sticking to our niche. What we could do better than anybody was this family type of Italian restaurant, sports bar. That we had 6 other successful of those restaurants in town, and so trying to go off and do something that was completely outside of that.
Yeah.
I think it really helped. And then again, the lessons of having a great leadership team in place and being all on the same page with the vision, where the company's going and how we're going to get there. And then having that discipline and the focus and the accountability to execute on the vision. We were lacking all that stuff, and we were just all over the place. We had a couple of different owners that were wanting to do different things, and then me as the CEO, visionary and integrator, wanting to do different things, and we just weren't on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Now, having had that experience, now if you had having 6 successful businesses and concepts and 1 failure, it's pretty good hit rate there. I mean, that most businesses fail. And I always say that if you look at all the companies that have been built in the last 100 years, and I'm going to do a little pop quiz for you. How many of them, what percentage survive today?
In the last 100 years?
Yeah, last 100 years, all companies that have been created, what percentage survive?
My gut instinct is saying 5%.
5%. Well, it's 0.001%. Is 99.999% survival, death rate of companies who have started in the last 100 years, which most people don't realize, right? I mean, most fail. Almost all fail. It's just not a matter of if, it's kind of a matter of when. And of course, there's a handful that make it. And so I think 6 successes, 1 failure is pretty darn good. So you should kind of, celebrate that. It's not that bad. But I'm also wondering, like, those failures, to me anyway, sort of leave their mark in the way you think about running businesses, the way you think about entrepreneurship in general. How has that experience maybe had your focus when you work with your clients different than maybe another implementer who didn't have that same experience? How are you coaching them to avoid the pain that you experienced?
Well, obviously we're going to follow the process that we have in place and teach the tools. And so I just try to help coach them where I see things that maybe I've experienced, or more, it's where I see some of my other clients having similar experiences, where that's where I'll kind of jump in and put on my coaching hat and just say, here's what I'm seeing from the other clients that I'm working with. And so this might resonate with you, and this might be something that you might want to take to heart and think about with your business. But here's some of the things I'm seeing, and try to give them some context that way. strangely enough, I don't have any restaurant companies that I work with after spending 25 years in the restaurant industry. Coming into this, I really thought like, oh, I'm going to be the restaurant EOS guy. All these restaurant connections and this huge restaurant network, and everybody knows me in that capacity. And then one of the things I really learned was, and I just might be getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but was I had to totally recreate my network. So the people who knew me in the restaurant business, that didn't really, what I'm doing now maybe didn't really resonate with them, and they didn't really know me in that capacity as an EOS implementer compared to the restaurants me. And so I had to totally rebuild my network and the community here in West Michigan, get to know a lot of different people, more business owners, entrepreneurs in lots of different industries. And so I haven't really been able to bring that restaurant knowledge into the session room with my clients. Not that, I would give them advice anyway, but I would kind of just say, here's what I've seen, or here's what I've done in the past, and you can make the decision if that resonates with you. And but I do have a 90-minute meeting with my first restaurant company next week.
Oh, awesome. Is it a former competitor? Or
not really a competitor, but in a different type of restaurant space. So we were in kind of more of the Italian restaurant, pizzeria, sports bar. This is a totally different type of a concept. But somebody I knew previously and I've known for a couple of years, and is finally kind of reaching out and saying, I think I can use your help.
Awesome. So when you were running the business, you mentioned you're sort of the CEO, the visionary, and the integrator. Mm-hmm. How do you think that would have been different should you have had a integrator counterpart?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately I did find an integrator and replaced me in that seat, and I kind of really, I like to say I delegated and elevated myself out of a job intentionally.
Yeah.
And so I had kind of planned on, I gave the ownership about a year's notice before I left. And so I said, I'm going to put the plan in place. I'm going to find and build out this leadership team, get an integrator in place that can run the day-to-day. And then I'm ultimately going to kind of just be the visionary, and then, kind of went down to more of a almost a part-time fractional visionary. Maybe that doesn't exist. I don't know. I made it.
Yeah, does now.
I did, yeah. So I did that kind of on like a part-time basis, and then I left at the end of 2021 and full-time into being an EOS implementer. But man, having that person in place from the start, somebody that could do that. Man, it would have been life-changing, I think. I mean, and for the organization, I was the type of visionary integrator that held on to a lot of stuff. Letting go of the vine was totally foreign to me. I was holding on to, I was really in the finance leader seat, the ops leader seat. The only thing that I didn't want to hang on to was the sales and marketing stuff. So I had somebody in that role, but I was kind of like doing everything else. And then ultimately, as we started EOS, and I started embracing letting go of the vine and the delegate and elevate tool, which I love. One of my favorite tools. I got somebody in the finance leader seat, got somebody in the ops leader seat, and then that ops leader ultimately became the integrator. And then, things just progressed until I left completely and started doing what I'm doing today.
So you started implementing EOS and as that in the visionary seat. Now, did you self-implement or did you hire an implementer?
Well, we did the 90-minute meeting in February of 2020.
Yeah.
Before COVID started, and so we kind of had to put the brakes on EOS for a little while. But I started self-implementing throughout the summer, and as we were figuring things out, and business actually started taking off and really booming, because we were doing a lot of takeout and to go and all that kind of stuff. And once we had kind of figured out how we were going to survive, and actually started going pretty well, I was still self-implementing and doing some things, and we ended up reaching back out. I think we did our focus day in October or something of that year. So we got through the summer, and once we were in the fall, and I felt like we were in a pretty good spot, and that, I still was very interested in doing EOS, and we had been doing some self-implementing. That's when I was like, yes, we're ready, let's go. And so we did our focus day in the fall.
So you hired an implementer to do that, but you're already self-implementing. Now, when you were self-implementing, were you a member of Basecamp? Did you do it from the books? How did you go about your self-implementation?
I think I did it from the books and from the tools, that we give away for free on the website. So I think I just pulled everything together that way, and I didn't even know about Basecamp at that point. But I think I just got all the tools together, found them, where we give them away, and just started using them.
Now, what was the biggest difference for you, self-implementing, doing it on your own, working with your leadership team, kind of holding on to the vine and doing your thing? What was the biggest difference having an implementer versus self-implementing?
Just having that expert in the room. And so what I thought I knew about EOS just from reading the books and from, seeing the tools and downloading them and just thinking I had a good idea of what the tools were and how to use them. And then you add in having an expert in the room who knows the tools, when to implement them at the right time, how to implement them, how to teach you how to use them properly. Because, the tools that we were using, we thought we were doing them the right way, but turns out, there was better ways of doing them and introducing them at the right time. So the timing, as you know, and the timing of introducing the tools is very critical as well. And so trying to implement everything all at the same time and do everything together doesn't always work as well. So having that expert in the room to really teach us, but then also driving the accountability and pushing us. I remember Ken pushing me, on some rocks a few times in the session room, and really, kind of pushing to do more than I thought that was possible, and I found a lot of value in that.
Mm-hmm. So you do your focus day, you start implementing with an implementer, you're kind of tweaking and honing, refining what it is that you were doing, getting value out of that coaching experience. But from a team perspective, what was the tool, what was the thing that kind of created that unlocking moment for the team? What session, what tool, a little bit over time, how'd that go?
Yeah. If I was thinking back, I think what jumps out at me right away is probably the accountability chart. Really getting a good grasp on what the structure of the organization should be, and really having that clear throughout the organization, throughout the leadership team. What's the structure of this business? And so not really having that before that. I remember that being really impactful and just really standing out to me. Like, oh, wow, we actually have a structure for this business now that makes sense, and this is right for us. So as I said before, it was kind of like me, and I had a marketing manager, and let's just roll. Let's just,
let's just do it.
Restaurant teams, the management team, the general managers of each restaurant, that was kind of it, and we didn't really have a structure behind that. So that was really good. The meeting, Pulse, we did weekly meetings already, but they were terrible. They lasted like 3 hours. Every Thursday afternoon, we did them.
Got nothing done.
1 to 4, sometimes 5, every Thursday afternoon. And like you said, what did we get done? Like walking out of there, what got accomplished? What did we solve? So implementing the meeting pulse and doing those level 10 meetings was so good, and I always thought, I think I run pretty good meetings. And when I got introduced to the level 10, I was like, no, my meetings sucked. They were they were so long and so all over the place.
Yeah, that's great. And so, at what point in time you're implementing EOS in your restaurant businesses? Things are starting to work. The team is starting to be built and come together. What's the moment in time you're like, you know what, Ken, I want your job? And why'd you think that? I mean, many entrepreneurs, and of course, well over most of our community are former leaders of companies who ran on EOS, fell in love with the process. So your story is fairly common, myself included.
Yeah.
But what was that thing? What attracted you to Ken's job?
Well, a couple of things. So Ken was great. Just the passion and just seeing the impact that he was having on us, on me as the leader of the company, on the leadership team. That felt really good, and I felt like, man, I want to be able to make that kind of a difference with a lot of people out there. Like, I can stay with this company and make an impact and make a difference with this group of people, this company, or I can go out there in the world and make a huge impact and make a huge dent in the universe, like we say, with a lot of different entrepreneurs, a lot of different companies, a lot of different, and you think about all the people in the company, the leadership team, and then all the employees, that's so huge. That's a huge difference that we can make. So that really appealed to me. But then there was a big clarity break that I had in the summer of 2020 that really kind of, even before we really or actually it was a little bit later in 2020, as we were starting the process, and I really had this great clarity break, and we were up at our cottage. I was there with my family, and there was something my wife had said to me prior to that, and so I was working all these crazy hours like most leaders of companies, leaving early in the morning before the kids and my wife would even get up, and be home late at nights. Sometimes be home in time for dinner, sometimes not. And I thought I was, still doing my part as a parent, and it was really more of a kind of a part-time parenting role I was in. And so when I was around, I was trying to kind of integrate myself into, being a parent. And my wife said something to me. She said, I think I was trying to kind of help with, the parenting role, and doing something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but she said, we're like the Three Musketeers. Me and the kids, we've got a routine, the way we do stuff, and when you're around, you're throwing that whole thing off. And it hit me so hard, it made me feel like an outsider in my own family. And it really made a huge difference to me. And so I just, during this clarity break, I have, still in my old notebook, I had all these notes that I took down, and I was like, I got to do something different. This is just not going to work for me. This is not how I want things to be with my family. I can't be an outsider. It needs to be the Four Musketeers, not the Three Musketeers. So we got to be all in on this together. I got to be more involved in being a parent and helping and supporting my wife. And so I just wrote out on these 2 pages in my notebook, and one of the conclusions I came to is like, I got to go out and start my own, have my own vision, and start my own direction and my own path, and leave behind this, what I've been doing, this industry that sucks a lot out of everybody that's involved in it. The restaurant industry is notorious for people getting burnt out, as many other businesses are, but the restaurant business is terrible at it. Long hours, nights, weekends, all that kind of stuff. And so I lived all that, but I just decided I got to make a change. And so, I was thinking about, what I talked about earlier, do I want to start my own restaurants and live that life for the rest of my life? Or what's this other path, this other thing I've been thinking about, this consulting business. And I was thinking about, like, what is my offering? What am I going to offer to people out there that has value? Is it this restaurant thing? But then I start thinking about EOS, like, this is something I can really get behind and be passionate about and support this and feel good about going out there and providing value to people as an EOS implementer. And that just like hit me, and I wrote that down, and this is what I got to do. And I highlighted it in my notebook, and I just said, I got to do this. And so I talked to my wife about it, and she's a teacher, and so she had kind of went to part-time when the kids were little, and actually was a stay-at-home mom, and so didn't really need to work. And then so she had kind of went back to doing a part-time, and then so we kind of talked about, all right, what does that look like if I take this entrepreneurial leap? Are you willing to go back full-time? And so, we have the benefits, and we have a kind of a regular income coming in, because this is what
Sure.
it looked like. The runway is this much, and so we take this leap. What does that how does that impact us financially? So we worked all that out. She supported me 100%. She said, I know you're not happy. We support you 100%. And so, she went back to teaching full time, which that's her unique ability. She's meant to do that. She's an amazing first grade teacher. She makes a huge difference in the lives of these kids. So she's doing what she loves to do and is best at. I'm doing that. My life is so well balanced right now. Totally changed from what it was a few years ago in the restaurant business. I'm there for my family. The last couple of years, while my son has been in grade school, I talk about having this bro time with them every morning. My wife and my daughter, they would leave about 7:30, and his bus would come at 8:30, and so I just designed my life to be able to be home with him every single morning, get him on the bus, we'd have an hour together, we'd go out to breakfast once a week, and so changed all that stuff from, what I talked about earlier with the Three Musketeers to what it is today looks so much different, and it's exactly where I wanted it to be. From where it was when I had that clarity break.
Yeah, I mean, such a powerful story, and I experienced that myself. Unfortunately, my two oldest kids, they didn't really experience me as an implementer. They mostly experienced me as an entrepreneur running lots of businesses, on a plane, flying everywhere, on 24/7. My youngest experienced me as a implementer, which was just completely different, having never missed any of her sporting events or anything like that. And, I do rarely, it is a rule that I don't miss anything if I can help it. And so sometimes I'm on a plane when I didn't want to, and I kind of regret that still, but most of the time, 90+% of the time, I get to be there. And it is such a huge, you never get that time back, and you're going to forget 100% of the emails meetings you had, all of that, things that you missed, but you're never going to forget the time you spent with your kids, and there'll be lots of stories to tell for the rest of your life. And it's just it's an unfortunate and common thing that entrepreneurs kind of make that huge sacrifice. Leaders make that huge sacrifice around work and running companies versus spending time with family and things that last versus things that disappear quite quickly. So I'm happy for your transformation there in terms of your time. Now, when you're thinking about your life now as an implementer, and you're working with your clients, you're making a huge difference, that just brings to me the EOS life, which is the 5 points of doing what you love with people you love, making a huge difference, being compensated appropriately, and having time to pursue other passions. So, and you mentioned earlier, like going to breakfast with your son and like having that bro time is probably one of those passions, and it's making a big difference. But where do you see yourself going with your implementer business? Do you see yourself doing this forever? Do you think that you'll go back and start a restaurant one day, or what's your future?
Yeah, so I don't see myself doing anything else besides I love being an EOS implementer. So I've got some other kind of entrepreneurial ideas that I may pursue, but those are all really on the back burner. I just love doing what I'm doing. I'm really focused and committed to being the best EOS implementer I can be, and the journey to mastery that we talk about, and keep working towards that and doing great work with my clients. And so nothing else really on the horizon. I've got, an idea for a restaurant that I tell my kids about, and they sometimes will say, when are you going to do the restaurant? I'm like, I'm ready to lose a couple $1 million and throw it away, then maybe I'll think about doing it. But that idea, some of those ideas are still in there, but I'm not ready to really think about them seriously or pursue anything. I'm loving doing what I'm doing. It's been 3 years, and it's just so much fun and amazing. And the EOS life that we get to live is truly a blessing. The work we get to do with our clients, and the life we get to live, and having that balance that I have right now with my family and the business life, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Yeah. I joke that being an EOS implementer is kind of like a lifetime sentence. And it's not a bad thing. It's sort of like, okay, I have found a craft I can master, which is a lifetime journey. I'm sure you, just as well as I have, every single session, every conversation, I learned something new. And, we talk about the EOS life, and it's funny. You've been in the community for 3 years or so. I was sitting at a QCE, a quarterly collaborative exchange in Detroit. Don Tinney, who's our co-founder, along with Gino Wickman, he gets up, and before he had a phone that he kept all his notes on that he does today, he had 3x5 cards. So he gets up, and everyone sort of knows, anyone who's listening to this who knows Don Tinney, and if you don't know Don Tinney, you should get to know Don Tinney. Please reach out to him on LinkedIn and tell him I sent you, and then we'll have a conversation about that later. But every time that he would get up and say something at a QCE with his 3x5 card, there'd always be a hush across the entire community, and you had maybe 80, 90, 100, 200 people just be quiet, and whatever he's about to say is going to be gold, because he doesn't use his words lightly. And so if he's going to stand up and read something, it's going to be really important. So he gets up and he says, I've been observing Gino and the way he lives his life for, I think at that time was probably almost 10 years, 8, 9, 10 years, something like that. And here's what I observed. And he's very disciplined around these things. His habits are completely designed around a very handful of things that he does every day. He says no to nearly everything, and he's just a very disciplined human. And the result of that are these 5 things. And he says he does what he loves, with people he loves, makes a huge difference, is compensated well, and has time to pursue other passions. And that was the birthplace of the EOS life, from Don Tinney writing on his 3x5 card and saying that during QC. And of course, later it becomes a book. But I think the interesting thing is that the EOS life is a byproduct. It is a strategic outcome of some very simple disciplines and habits. So I'd love to hear from you Chris, about, now we have systems and structures around the way we teach EOS and EOS purity and things like that. But we also have a lot of systems and structures that stemmed from Don and Gino around how to run a practice. How do you run and build an EOS implementer business? And we see very, very often implementers are visionary, usually very tempted to go off and do other things. You know, we have our processes that people just kind of, I'm better than that, or I could do it better, faster, cheaper here or there. And I'm including myself, by the way, in all of these things, because I've probably, one of the main reasons I'm visionary at EOS Worldwide is I've figured out every way to screw up being an implementer. So I'm just curious for you, what are those disciplines? What are those habits that have created the strategic byproduct of being able to live the EOS life?
I think I'm really disciplined and very structured with how I kind of live my life, and so, you know, from business to personal, there's always a lot of structure. The calendar is huge for me. I remember, I don't know where I saw it. I saw like a screenshot of your calendar, and I was like, oh, that looks just like mine. It's all color-coded and perfectly lined up. Everything's got to fit in nicely in all the spaces. You can't have anything kind of off-kilter. That bothers me. I love seeing my calendar like nicely laid out and perfectly aligned, and so my assistant, Linda, helps me out a lot with that, because she knows exactly how I like it. But everything is disciplined, like from my morning routine, the workout, the time with the family, when I take my shower, when I go do my cardio in the morning, and then when I start my work day. That stuff's all just laid out nicely on my calendar, and I do my weekly planning first thing on Monday morning. I used to do it on Sunday, but I moved it to Monday morning because I wanted to make sure I took a full day off of not doing anything. But so first thing Monday morning, I plan out my whole week and make sure it's all exactly how I want it to be. And then I have my level 10 with my assistant after that, and we go through all that and make sure everything looks and feels how I want it to feel. So I feel like I'm going to have a great week. So the discipline and the focus, starts with that. I mean, the calendar is so huge for me, and then I just live and die by that thing throughout the whole week. And so that's really kind of the biggest tool that I have. That helps keep me accountable and focused on what I'm supposed to be doing as well. And so whenever I feel like I'm, a little off track or lost, I just go back to that calendar. Like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? Even in the morning, it's like, do my workout first thing in the morning, and then after that, it's the post-workout meal. It's the, spend some time reading or some quiet time, and then my wife and kids are getting up, so I try to spend some time with them. And then once I get out of the house now, I can do the rest of the stuff I need to do to get ready for the day, whether it's going for a walk or breakfast or whatever it is, and then I start my work day. So I hope I'm answering the question. Like,
yeah, for sure.
That's really worked well for me. That's how I just like to have my whole day and my whole week structured.
Now, was that always true for you, or has that been really, when coming to be an implementer 3 years ago, have you doubled down on those habits, or have you kind of always had them?
I think I've had parts of them, but I really, once I started being an implementer, and I had more real control over that, and started learning some of the tools and the practices of other EOS implementers, and started implementing those things. But at some point, I read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey, and that really started getting me going on, begin with the end result in mind, plan your week out, know your roles and your goals, and what you need to accomplish to be great at each role that you have, setting goals for each of those. And then implementing EOS and having the VTO and having a VTO for my business and having a personal VTO really just added more structure, more layers of structure. So I think that really helped with it.
Mm-hmm. And every conversation I have with implementers, I'm always taken by the amount of reading and learning that we all seem to do. And I did a little short poll, and I mentioned this in other episodes, about 95%, as far as I can tell, of EOS implementers have learner as one of the top 5 strengths in StrengthsFinder. Is that true for you?
I've never done StrengthsFinder, so.
Well, you should. Well, chances are, based on what I've heard so far, you're probably going to have learner in the top 5, maybe top 10. But what are the last books you've read? You mentioned you had some reading time, and you kind of spent some time. 7 Habits. What's the last few books you've read, and what did you take away from them?
Yeah, so the one that I've fully completed, the last one was Outlive by Peter Attia.
Yeah.
That was a great book, and I really found that there was a lot of things that I was doing as far as the workouts, the nutrition, that side of it. The sleep part had been lacking for the last several years. And, I always kind of had the same outlook as him, that sleep is, I'll sleep when I'm dead. If I get 5 hours, I'll be good. I got to get up and, hit my routine. And, so that really helped me out. So really been focused over the last couple of weeks on improving my sleep. And, I've been really disciplined about going to bed at a certain time. I usually go to bed at 9 o'clock, and sometimes my kids tuck me in.
Yeah.
But disciplined about going to bed on time. But there was, I haven't always slept really well, so I'm really focused on that. And the other part that he talks about, the whole chapter, is about emotional health. And so really got some good nuggets and some wisdom out of the book and that part of it. But all those things together, combined, the working out, the physical activity, the nutrition, the sleep, the emotional health, all those things together are going to help you live longer, and then increase the happiness during that time that you're living longer. And so, it's not just great to live a longer life, and then not be able to do all the things you want to do. You still want to have that ability to do all the things you want to do in those later years that you're adding to your life. So that was really a great book. Let's see. I just started The Untethered Soul. So kind of halfway through that one. I went to QC in Denver last week and started that on the plane. Read that a little bit on the way there, on the way back, and a little bit over this weekend. So that's those are the ones that I'm into currently.
Awesome. All right. So I appreciate the story. I think, it's just an amazing journey that you've gone through, and the transformation to living your EOS life as an implementer. So congratulations on your journey. And it is a never-ending journey, so I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I'm so grateful for our community, and for Gino, for creating this amazing system that we have to be able to build these businesses on and help these people out there, these entrepreneurs that need our help. And so, our community is amazing, and so I'm just so happy to be a part of it and be able to, live the EOS life.
Awesome. All right, Chris. Well, thank you for coming on the show, and we'll see you at a QC sometime.
Yeah, sounds good. My pleasure, Mark.
We'll see you.